our social media analysis unit, has ramped up its monitoring of sites in response to our desire to ensure that not only do New Yorkers be safe, but they also feel safe.
Hey, so New York is going to monitor you for your safety. This is The Brink. And folks, remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you like me and you like what we do here. And if you love it, you can also become a Daily Caller Patriot. There's a link in that description below, so make sure you check it out. Also, welcome to all our new subscribers. I love having you guys here, and I'm so thankful for it. All right, so take a listen to New York Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul.
Also, we're very focused on the data we're collecting from surveillance efforts. What's being said on social media platforms. We have launched an effort to be able to counter some of the negativity and reach out to people when we see hate speech being spoken about on online platforms. Our media analysis, our social media analysis unit, has ramped up its monitoring of sites to catch incitement to violence, direct threats to others.
You know, Albert Camus once said, "The welfare of the people in particular has always been the alibi of tyrants." Now, to give some background, she was talking at first about the rise in anti-Semitism, right? Talking about putting more police officers around yeshivas and synagogues and other vulnerable places in New York. But then she said that the state is very focused on its surveillance efforts to keep us safe. That the state is reaching out to people when they, quote, see hate speech being spoken about on online platforms. And then she says that the state is ramping up its efforts to catch incitement to violence and other direct threats. So first of all, I know we hear often, the slogan, hate speech is free speech. And look, I've said it myself because it's true. But I want to kind of change the narrative here. I want to talk about what hate speech actually is. Hate speech? It's just a phrase that is used to denote any type of speech or thoughts that go against the majority opinion. And who determines what that is? The majority. Now, in this case, do not get me wrong. The pro-Palestinian protesters, the mobs of Hamas supporters, they have hate in their heart. And most of their chants and their slogans are not hate speech, right? Because hate speech is free speech. It's covered under the First Amendment. Their speech, I would argue, is illegal speech, okay? Brandenburg versus Ohio ruled that any speech that advocates for lawlessness or incites, violence or imminent harm, that is not constitutionally protected speech. Cornell students calling for the rape and beheading of Jews, protesters calling for the extermination of Israel entirely and Jews, because that's done by killing them, protesters calling for support of the Intifada.
Long live the Intifada! Long live the Intifada!
Which literally seeks to murder Jews. That is not free speech, right? And those people should not only be condemned, but if possible, prosecuted. But here's why Hochul's phraseology, her speech, worries me. Because she's not being specific about what hate speech she's referring to. Is she referring to the anti-Semitism I just mentioned? Because that's different. That's probably illegal speech. But you know what hate speech could mean? It could mean that if another Black Lives Matter riot happened, like in 2020.
There are no police. There is no police presence at the 3rd precinct. We're watching it be set right now. We're watching it go up in flames right now.
Holy Christmas. Oh boy. We've got two CHP cruisers.
Police say the protest became a riot.
The most serious injury suffered by an officer was a broken vertebrae when a concrete block was dropped on his head.
If you spoke out against Black Lives Matter and the violence you saw, well, maybe the state would start surveilling you because it's hate speech and a threat, because that's what the majority of New Yorkers think, right? The Supreme Court ruled in Mittal v. Tam that so-called hate speech, which in that case was a racially tinged band name, is still free speech and it's still protected. So unless Hochul and the state is specifically surveilling individuals who do not pass, the Brandenburg test of what free speech is, then they are just admitting that they're surveilling citizens for constitutionally protected free speech. And that's what's so scary and dangerous. And look, do I think they're doing it regardless? Of course, right? They're always watching us, state, federal, even local. But if they come out and admit that they're doing it right now, it's probably a hell of a lot worse behind closed doors, right? We don't even know the half of it. And an update to what we spoke about yesterday. So Gavin Newsom explaining why he had San Francisco get cleaned up for the Chinese communist dictator.
Anytime you put on an event, by definition, you have people over your house. You're going to clean up the house. You have 21 world leaders. You got tens of thousands of people coming from all around the globe. What an opportunity to showcase the world's most extraordinary place, San Francisco.
What about the people that live there, right? What about these San Francisco taxpayers paying residents. You know what this reminded me of? A little personal story here. So last year, my apartment had like no heat for 9 weeks, and I complained to my landlord every single day about the fact that it was like 50 degrees in there in the middle of winter. And he had every excuse in the book as to why my heat couldn't be fixed. Oh, supply chain issues. Oh, the part's not in. Oh, I don't have anybody. So I told him, okay, well then I'm going to withhold rent. And he still didn't fix it. But then I got the city involved, and they fined him a literal crap ton of money, not only for my heat, but for other problems that they decided to look for. And then they threatened to fine him again if he didn't get the heat fixed within a certain amount of days. Lo and behold, your girl had heat within 24 hours. Why? Because there was an incentive there, right? It was never that my landlord couldn't fix my heat. He just didn't care about my threats to withhold my rent because he knew I was gonna pay my rent, right? He knew that my threats were baseless. And it's the same thing here. City officials, the government, they can always keep the cities clean, but they choose not to use the resources that you gave them with your tax dollars because they have no one holding them accountable. But you threaten them with a fine, or in this case, you scare them with a Chinese communist dictator, squeaky clean streets. It's amazing. It's like a magic trick.
Here we are, downtown San Francisco.
And the best part about this, we can just vote these people out. It's not just San Francisco, it's New York City, it's all these major, metropolitan places. You can just vote them out. By them, I mean Democrats, right? Put Republicans in charge, make them have accountability. Now, I know some of you may not be the biggest Bill Maher fans, but my God, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this was so funny.
At Bill Maher's Catholic school, we do school old school with a curriculum called School Classic. Rule 1, no phones. All day, no exceptions. Other rules include no making up a disorder that allows your kid to get more time on the test. We call that by its original name, cheating. No participation ribbons, no turning in anything late, no vaping, no emotional support animals, and of course, if a student doesn't maintain a C average or higher, absolutely no sex with the teacher.
So you know who else thinks that Catholic schools rock? Chicago Teachers Union President Stacey Davis Gates, who sends her son to an elite private school while stripping that opportunity away from other minority students. So Illinois Democrats, who claim to care so much about minorities and education, decided to vote down a voucher program that provides 10,000 low-income students with scholarships. And about 72% of the recipients were non-white. So what did Democrats do when they found out that minority students were getting a better education than the state could provide them? They killed it. The kids wanted it. They literally even went to the legislators and said, we want this. But the teachers union didn't. So in the interest of the kids, legislators killed it. And Davis's Gates union said that it was really part of their effort to fight for anti-racist, gender-affirming, pro-immigrant, fully funded public schools. That is literally why people want to get out of public schools. What is gender-affirming? Parents do not want to be sending their kids to school that teaches that science suddenly isn't real after, thousands of years because someone's mentally ill, right? They want kids to know the basics. They want kids to know arithmetic, reading, writing, and some history, and maybe some just like decency, maybe a few manners here or there, right? They don't want their kids knowing about gender pronouns, and that is what Maher was talking about. But Davis Gates reportedly sends her son to the De La Salle Institute, which is a private Catholic school. So what's wrong with the Chicago's public schools? Do you send your son to a private Catholic school because the government runs a really crappy education program? And look, don't be ashamed to answer that. Yes, if you do, but you do. Because we'd all do it too if we had the resources, right? But if that's the case, why do you stop other students from getting a better education? Is your son better than all of them? It's all about the money, folks. We know this to be true because think about this. During the pandemic, right, you had Randy Weingarten working in lockstep with the Biden administration to slow walk the process of opening these schools back up, not because it was a threat to children who literally were rarely getting COVID, and if they did, they almost always survived, but because the teachers were scared of a cold with a 99.9% plus survival rate. Students fell 2 grade years behind in writing, reading, math. I mean, the scores are astonishing, and it's sad. And they kept schools shut down because the teachers union, which donates to Democrats, told them so. Said keep the schools closed, and Biden was right there hand in hand helping them do this. This is one of the biggest travesties to happen to our youth who is our future. We are sending ill-prepared youngsters to college and to life, and they are so far behind the other generations because of the government. We let the government be in charge for 3 years, 2020 to 2023 essentially, with the COVID lockdowns and restrictions, and look what happened. Kids lost education by 2 grade levels. But just remember, folks, teachers unions care so much about the students. They should probably be called students unions. It would be great. Folks, we will have more for you right back here tomorrow on The Brink.